So I just want to talk about some grip issues and some alignment issues in the wrist that we see that are pretty common that can lead to some bad movements. Now, these don't necessarily always lead to bad movements, but if you are creating or seeing bad movements in a hitter, a lot of times how they're gripping the handle or the alignment of their wrists can play a part in creating some bad movements. First and foremost, the easiest one that we really see is guys holding the bat real deep in their palm. So they get the bat and they're kind of gripping the bat real deep in this thumb crotch here. What can happen a lot of times is there can be a tendency for them to want to push this way because the top hand is real deep in the palm and they want to push the barrel forward. Easiest way is to try to get the bat more in their fingers. Okay, so we create more of a grip out here in the fingers. That way they've got an easier chance of turning the barrel rearward and getting the barrel whipping through the zone. We also like to use these pro hitters, so these little thumb guards that you see a lot of big league guys use. Just goes on your top hand and the bat kind of rests against that thumb guard there and allows us to get the bat more into the fingers. The other thing that we see a lot is this diagonal grip, where it's kind of like this, almost like a golf grip, where the fingers are kind of holding the bat real diagonal this way. What we'll see with a lot of guys is when they get loaded, the barrel will be kind of open and it'll be real casted. So in order for us to create whip and create good loaded positions and deep, tight barrel turn, we want to have more of a square grip. So when we get into this position in our load, we want to be a little bit square. Again, if we've got this diagonal grip, we'll see the barrel cast out this way. Once we launch, see, we create this real long, slow move instead of having the opportunity to whip the barrel through the zone. So we want this hand to kind of work this way, and we want the barrel with the palm up on the top hand to be able to whip through the zone this way. If the hand is already open, okay, if the hand's already open this way, we don't have a chance to create that whip. All right, just a long, casted, pulled swing. The last one that we see is with bad wrist alignment, where we see this cupping action, where we're kind of cupped like this. Again, it makes it real tough to turn the barrel rearward. It also makes it real tough through the zone to stay through the ball, so there's a tendency to want to roll over. The other thing that you'll see is in order to create whip, the hitter has to drive the elbow underneath this way. That's the only way that they can create any kind of whip. So we're trying to get to a more neutral position with our grip, with our wrist, so that when we get to this point, we can stay palm up through the ball, we can stay through the ball this way. So those are a couple of the issues that we see with the grip and wrist alignment. We're going to have Grant come in, he's going to show us a couple things. What exactly is happening when those grip and alignment issues crop up. Also going to give us a couple movement exercises, mobility and stability, things we can do to address these from the weight room standpoint.
Alright, so to feed off of what Chris was saying as far as the grips, quick issue is going to be, taking on a cross ball. We need to make sure that we're breaking up the soft tissue. The wrist issue is going to be stemming up all the way, forearm. A main issue maybe up in the shoulder, dealing with the scap. The first thing we can kind of do is breaking up, our extensor muscles here, doing it manually, just with our hands. We can also kind of take it onto a surface, as well as using right up against the wall. Same thing down here with our flexors. Picking off that, this is going to be breaking up, so this is just going to be kind of first thing, before you're hitting, before you're working out. Next one I'm going to get down on the ground and then show actually a loaded exercise that we can actually do to kind of gain more range of motion through our wrist. So this guy is going to be kind of sitting here, loading down into our wrist, and then kind of sitting back, gaining flexion into our wrist here, as well as kind of load it, sit back, and then get that flexion. Kind of just changing the directions with our hands, going here, working on that extension through our wrist this way, driving our hands into the ground. Then you can also kind of brace with one arm, go here, rock forward, and that way we're just going to kind of manually get more range of motion through our wrist. Obviously it's going to take a little time. This is kind of working on the forearm aspect. Another issue would be, down the road, or another video would be looking at, is there an issue with the scap movement? Is there, more shoulder issue that's causing this not to move properly, and it's going to go distally down to your wrist. So that's kind of the wrist, you know, mobilization manually through a lacrosse ball. All right, so, you know, we kind of went over extension, flexion, so, you know, the next one's going to be radial deviation as well as ulnar deviation. So, you know, guys with limited radial deviation are not going to be able to get that hinge, you know, in the swinging motion. They're not going to be able to get that here, that hinge when they're back. So they're going to be able to, you know, rather than hinging radially, they're going to be almost cupping this position, or they're going to be kind of opening up this direction. So they need to be able to hinge, you know, straight up and down. So a guy who goes here and they're not able to get this radial deviation up, they're going to be limited. So that's either going to throw out like a cast motion, or they're going to cup through and then throw with the arms. You know, very common. You know, obviously we got to work, you know, forearms up into our scapular shoulder region as well. But again, throwing the lacrosse ball in here, getting range of motion through our wrists, even doing kind of manual manipulation up and down, as well as radial and ulnar deviation as well, is going to help with that mobility through the wrist.